All right, it's 9 o'clock and we have 4 people here, so we do not have quorum. 5th is on the way, as only Mr. Commissioner might be here shortly. We can go ahead and get started though. And so Ms. Alma, can you please call roll?
Tina Kane. Keith Leonard. Commissioner May. Dr. Northup, I have his excuse. Ms. White.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Judge Williams. And Ms. Wood.
All right. If you would stand with the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Williams, will you please lead us? All right, we will skip approval of agenda and approval of minutes because we don't have quorum. And we'll go to our treasurer's report. Ms. Abrams, if you could please give us the treasurer's report.
Thank you. Your financial reports are in a new format to give you guys a little bit more information. Definitely, if you want anything else shown on these that you don't see, please let me know. But if I look at the balance sheet, you're going to see our cash in bank for both the operating and the reserve account. We have roughly $26,953,000 cash in both those accounts added together. Our biggest liability right now at the end of May, these are May's financials, was accounts payable with the CRA tax payable to Escambia County as the second. That has now been paid, so that will not be on your future reports. Then we have, if you go to the next page, your statement of revenue and expenditures, you're going to see that we are at 80% of our total revenue that we budgeted for, and we have received the rest of the ad valorem taxes. We received slightly more than budgeted. We budgeted for 96%. We did receive closer to 97%. We will be fine with the interest. We will meet our budget on the interest income of $1 million. So going down that, you're going to see that we have budgeted for 5.94% of our expenses to be administrative. At this moment, we are running 8.3% just because the programs are running behind. When I run these reports, if you look at the grants and aids at the end of May, it only showed $233,000 because when I have to get these ready, they don't start their May reports. May reports aren't due till June 21st. When we start reimbursing them after that, we'll have over $1 million every month in reimbursements to the programs. So right now we are running at 49% left on that budget line item for the grants and aids. On the general ledger, there was nothing abnormal that happened. Our contract schedule, you're going to see that all the contracts we've entered into with providers. As of May 31st, there's a balance of $9,661,000 on awarded contracts and $21,545,000 remaining in funding requested. So those are the contracts we currently have for the additional years they requested. We have $21.5 million left on those contracts. Out of that $21 million, $18,845,000 is obligated out of our current cash on hand, and the remaining $2.7 million will be obligated out of the next year's future funding. As of May 31st, programs have surrendered a total of $4.9 million in funding that was awarded to them but not spent out. So does anybody have any questions I can answer for you? Okay. Then we recommend that, the filing of the financial reports for the month ending June 30th.
If there's no questions, we will accept the recommendation to file for audit as presented for the month ending June 30th, 2025. The next, we'll go back to approval of the agenda, and may I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, no opposed. And also approval of the minutes from July the 8th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve that?
Motion.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes. Next, we're going to go back to number 7 on the agenda. It's the 2025-2026 budget review by Ms. Abrams.
Okay, thank you. At our budget workshop, for those that were able to attend, we went over our budget and what we wanted to be able to do in the future for programming and recommended staying at our current millage. So this budget review that you have is just for your review. We will actually vote on it in September at the trim hearing, but I wanted you guys to have it in advance so that you could have time to look over it and ask any questions that you had. So,
Thank you so much. Are there any questions on that? All right, hearing none, we'll go to public comments. Were there any public comments, Ms. Alma, today? Ms. Ellis? Okay. All right, and now we're going to start a special presentation by the National Flight Academy.
Good morning. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today and give you a mid-year update on what we've been able to do in conjunction with the Children's Trust for Escambia County Schools. Whoops. All right. So just a quick overview. It's a 3-year grant, but we're on year 1, 7 weeks total of programming split between the spring and the fall, max of 42 students per week. And the goal, of course, was no cost to families or Escambia County. And we're providing those measurables via pre- and post-test data and student surveys. So where we stand now here as of August 12th is we completed the first 4 weeks of programming, 1 in January, 2 in February, and 1 in March. So you can see the schools that we had attend Flight Academy programming, total number of students in parentheses after each school, had 145 students graduate. And I think the key indicator there is the pre and post-test results average. So you have a pre-test average of 54.57 and a post-test of 69.47. So a solid demonstration of some knowledge gains during their time at the Flight Academy. And of course, you get to see those photos on the right of the data indicate students over at the Naval Air Technical Training Center where they're getting some instruction from a couple of aviation ordnancemen up in our paraloft wearing the flight gear and then in the flight simulator executing some of the missions. A little bit of an eye chart, I apologize, just my snapshot from SAMUS. I just wanted to talk briefly about where we stand on budget execution. We've completed 4 of 7 weeks. That's 57% of the programs we're slated to do, and we're tracking at about 53% on budget execution. So I'm very, very comfortable with where we stand in all of the categories, and I'll be doing a small amendment after having conferred with Tammy about that in terms of covering a little bump in our transportation costs and a little overage in our what we thought was we budgeted too much in our food account. So, but overall, we're tracking very well to what the program and what the plan is. And as we look forward coming up this fall, we have 3 weeks remaining. So you can see the dates on the screen, the last 3 weeks of October. And we've already been in coordination with our county rep to identify the schools, and she's working with those administrators to begin the student selection now that school is back in process. So it's been a very, very productive first part of the year, and we're looking forward to getting another, 142 or another 42 students each week. And barring any questions.
What's been the feedback from the students?
They'll love it. Do I have to leave on Friday? Do I have to go back home? Unfortunately, yes. But no, both in the surveys they provide at the end, a lot of positive feedback on the exposure to not only what they're doing academically and in the simulator, but all the other pieces that come along with the program in terms of the museum and things of that nature. The great thing is, I'll have to take a look at our calendar, but some of those weeks will probably have Blue Angel practices thrown in there too, because when we did them in January and February, the Blues are out in El Centro, so they weren't here, so that wasn't available for the students. So just another good motivational piece of the program to let them experience.
Do you have the schools that you are going to do this year, and are they middle schools or high schools? Because I saw the last one was a high school.
So we did, if I'll go back for you. So we did 6 middle schools and a high school in the spring. And so we're working with Monica, who is our Escambia County rep, to identify the schools for the weeks, and then with those administrators to identify the students. So we have not identified those exact schools. That'll be starting in October.
So I thought we were only doing middle, but we
Nope.
included high school.
It was agreed for middle school and high school, yep.
And I did have another question. Because I did visit it, and I think the program is amazing.
I saw your graduation, I think.
Yes, and I came the first week too,
Yep.
and I got a tour, and it's, the things they're doing are great. Is there a takeaway of something that you've learned from the first one to the fourth one that y'all are doing different?
So I would say the biggest takeaway was once the school, once we got this, really the administrators and the principals on board, you can see the numbers went up every week to close to the max that we're trying to get in there every week. So the word has gotten out about the value of the program to the various principals and administrators. So us getting the students to be able to participate in generating that level of interest has been a big plus between week 1 and week 4.
One thing I know we don't do amendments, but just a takeaway that from talking to parents, going, I think maybe if we are able to do this in the future, like maybe a duffel bag or something for the kids, like, because some parents were concerned about like having a way to bring, like, to take their kid to have that much stuff in the bag, so,
Oh, you mean as far as bringing
yeah.
items?
I'm saying it's not something like I know
Sure.
that you do, but I just think if that's something that we could budget, like giving the kids like a bag or.
We can
'cause
certainly,
when
I
we're
mean,
looking at kids.
we can be as flexible as we need to be in terms of working with the individual schools and identifying the parents that have those.
Yeah,
we're
I
happy
just know
to-
I had parents call me because they were like, oh, what is this? And they didn't have a way to like, when we're looking at, like, those are things that may not think about, like when we're looking at a child being able to go away for a week. If
Sure.
the parents don't travel that often where they send their child away for a week, having somewhere to put 7 days worth of things is could
Sure.
be a concern that a parent might have with sending their child away. So that was just a takeaway that I
Okay.
had talked to parents
That's certainly
about.
something we can explore on our end too, to provide that level of flexibility. Sure.
I just wanted to make sure I told you and Children's Trust, thank you. It is invaluable what our students from our schools that do have the opportunity to visit the Flight Academy, what they receive. I do know initially, some of our administrators and teachers were nervous, and it wasn't about them going, it was about them being gone from school and what they would miss. And you think about last year, some of the odd occurrences that we had. I mean, whoever thought we'd be out of school for a week because of a snowstorm?
Sure.
But thank you to you and your team, to our administrative teams at our schools, Ms. Willis, who works hand in hand with
She does.
everybody out at the base. From a school district standpoint, it's quite a benefit. It's one I hope can continue for years to come.
Yes, sir. And you make an excellent point. And our whole goal is to provide that programming for the students during weeks that is least impactful to the students, so that they're not having to play a significant amount of catch. We know they're going to have some catch up, but if we can minimize what they miss out on, we're pretty flexible. But we're excited that it's gone so well, and I just see it getting better and better. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present that update today.
Thank you so much. All right, next we go to business operations and the board workshop follow-up by Ms. Cannon.
So from the workshop, there's a couple takeaways that we were looking at. So for funding going forward, and looking at trying to get to a $0 balance, really looking at what type of programming we want to offer. We know that out-of-school time is something that the workshop, we came really from that that is really impactful. Mental health. We were looking at a different focus too, adding in more so looking at that 0 to 5 population. We know that we have a significant childcare crisis happening in our community. We do have a board meeting, is it next week or this week, with the Early Learning Coalition. So I hope to learn more about the type of money that may be going away. And for those of you that don't know, they're looking at a $2.4 million cut, which could result in 300 to 500 children in our community losing their current care. And so we do feel like from the workshop, this is kind of what we're built for, is to make sure our families don't fall, and taking into consideration some unique projects that were brought from the Miami group down there and how they were building their workforce and supports, and specifically quality care for kids. So really looking at pushing some dollars towards an initiative from a 0 to 5 childcare, early learning type of population, and professionalizing that system. So we know that we do have some sole source that are going to come our way. We're already kind of vetting through some of those, having direct meetings. We haven't had anyone send a request as of yet, and when we do, we'll send that straight to the program committee, but we do know that we're going to have some flexibility with some dollars that will either be recaptured or are currently unallocated. One of the other concerns was match. We already do that with ELC, but we have been alerted to Head Start having some significant challenges around that, and that we're likely going to get a large ask there as well to maintain those federal funds coming in. So we do really need to be strategic, I think, in what we're going to be doing going forward. But those are very significant programs that are getting federal or state cuts, and we either need to find a new way to do some things or invest in those and enrich them for our community. So looking at some of those unobligated dollars, we may need to look at this, as well as some innovative programming that will be coming our way as well from some private providers if they choose to submit. We also talked about the CARES grant and that being a unique opportunity as well. Tammy, when she built out the budget, kind of put that as a line item about where we were for a point of discussion, because that is a way to help some of our smaller nonprofits get off the ground and be prepared, of course, for some of our larger ones. There was a discussion about, we can put parameters around that as well, or if you're currently funded through ECT, you can't go for that. Or we could put some if you have to be an organization of a smaller percentage, 100,000 or 150, or we do have some grants throughout our community that do that. But it is taking a tremendous amount of time really getting them prepped for what they're going to experience, especially in the public realm of reimbursement and how they're spending their dollars. And so the other portion to that was setting aside dollars as well to do training for our nonprofits, not just ours that we currently contract with, but those that are seeking to come along. So we are going to enter in some more conversations with PSC. They are kind of revamping that particular program that they had. I don't know if y'all know Ruthie Noel has moved into that spot from Achieve Escambia, and she's actually been a small nonprofit that went through the whole process and was certified. And so for her coming back and teaching that and supporting some of our nonprofits might be impactful. We have tried to reach out to others. We really don't have anyone else locally that's doing that kind of work. So we're still information gathering at this point, but wanted to put a line item in there to offer that as well. If we look at our budget, Tammy did set out the scenarios for all, like if we did rollback rate, what that would look like, if we stayed at our same millage, if we went up incrementally, what that would look like. And so the recommendation from that committee or from that workshop was just stay at our current millage, because we do have significant concerns about being able to invest with those families that might be losing childcare, especially with, our money being set aside related to TIF financing and things like that. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But it was a really good meeting, and we hit it right at 2 hours. Like we weren't in there for a really long time, but we have a lot going on in our community, and I think I'm excited and honored that we actually have a Children's Trust here, because there's a lot of other communities that are receiving these cuts that do not have supports like we're able to do. So.
Thank you so much. All right, now we're moving on to programs, the change of scope. We will need a motion to approve this, but I will let Ms. Cannon talk about New World Believers with the HOOPS program.
Sure. So HOOPS program is New World Believers. It's been a really successful program. They are one of those that also have other programming related to DJJ, but they are having successes and, of course, are being recommended from the juvenile justice system as diversion type of services for kids throughout the community. And so the request for the change of scope was, of course, to broaden that ability to take kids from throughout the community, not just a specific zip code. Not that those aren't the priority, but to expand that out. And then the other part of that is they do have an incentive process that they work with their youth that go through a series of trainings in there, and they receive an incentive, and they call them HOOPS bucks. And so once those kids leave and go into aftercare, they had a real cutoff of being able to financially do that with them, and so they wanted us to be able to change the scope so that even in these kids in aftercare could still receive the incentive that they had earned, and it's not a time-bound issue. And so the program committee approved for this to be brought forward, and is just seeking the full board's approval to do the contract amendment.
All right, is there a motion to approve the change of scope?
Motion.
Second?
I second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that passes. Next is Ms. Ray on the summer site visit. You can go ahead and talk about the OST report as well while you're up there.
Absolutely. Good morning. It's a much easier for me to stand before you than to have my neck turned. Happy first week of school. Everyone was excited yesterday. It was great to see all last week and through the weekend, all the community support going to different schools and sites with school supplies and backpacks and food and information on resources. So I'm prayerful that they had a great day yesterday. I had the pleasure of going to Global as a volunteer and just helping with kindergarten and first grade lunches. Super cute school. The kids were ready. I thought there were going to be tears. There was maybe one. But out of all the kindergartens and first grade, everyone had a very successful day and they looked excited. So kudos to Ms. Pierce and her team. We have made visits all summer. So our team, the majority of us had gone out to at least 13 of the 15 sites that we have for OST. The other ones may have had programming, but they didn't have ECT participants there, so we will save them for the fall. But overall, I mean, we're looking for certain things as far as participant attendance and tracking. I think it's one thing to see it in SAMUS, but another thing to put your eyes on the program and how they're operating to see how many participants they actually have. We're looking at their performance monitoring. We actually look at lesson plans if they have that, materials, as well as approved purchases. We're looking at those purchases, those high dollar purchases, like $5,000 and up, making sure they have an inventory. We put our eyes on them when we're there at the site visits as well. We're looking at the participants and staff. We're able to have conversations with the staff as well as the participants about how they feel about the program, the different projects that they're involved in. If there are parents there, we have an opportunity to speak to them as well. We're looking at their completion of program goals and submission of quarterly reports, so we verify that at the time of the visits, as well as their maintenance of HR records and their adherence to finance policies and procedures. So I think overall we had a very successful summer. It was busy. Programming in the summer looks very different than programming throughout the year. So you will see that higher dollar expenditure because that's every single day. Most of the programs were maxed and had waiting lists, and so we were hopeful that everyone had a place to go, but that's an ongoing conversation about getting that information out early enough for parents so they can take full advantage of program at no cost. So any questions about our site visits? Okay. Moving forward, you all have before you our pretty extensive out of school time year 2 report. So we're very excited about this report. I know it's over 100 pages and you received it over the weekend and may or may not had a lot of time, but certainly as you thumb through the contents, you could see that there are some differences in the report. It looks different than the first year, and admittedly, I had been here only a couple of months. So I think when you know better, you do better. We've grown together as an organization. We've grown together with our providers, having monthly meetings with them, as well as quarterly parade of provider opportunities to get to know and to collaborate, as well as speaking to our other partners throughout the community. So I want to say that we've listened, of course, to our board and the concerns that may have been brought forward, but certainly to the public as well, and operating in transparency of some of their concerns. And we wanted to make sure that we thoroughly covered all of those things. But of course, there's always room for growth and improvement. But I just stand before you today being very proud of the product that our team has produced for you all, so we can explore that today. Looking through it, you could see that you're going to have the indicator reports that we're going to have in there as far as looking at the accountability, some of that progress monitoring, and as far as, of course, our responsibility to the community to keep them informed. You're going to see the OST data, those outcomes as far as looking at positive habits in children. It's proven, and the most recent survey that we had was from the After School Alliance, the May 2025 article, that those who participate in out-of-school time have some very positive outcomes, such as academic achievement, positive social emotional development, prevention, and safety, and it also serves as a vital resource for our families and enabling parents to go to work and provide for their household. So you will see that data pretty specifically throughout our out-of-school time programs, and you will see the outcomes that they have provided as well in this report. You're going to see that the themes of our indicator are also present in our actual out-of-school time. So you're going to see the full 15 that are going to be represented in all of the themes. I think the only theme that doesn't stand out would be theme number 3, and that's just because we're taking that information from their proposed goals and objectives. So that's what's going to be reflected in the themes that you see throughout. You're also going to see a map that shows the 32 site locations, and it shows the multiple sites and where they're located countywide. You're going to see the reflection of our county commission districts. So you will see that District 1 has 1 site at about 9.8%. District 2, we see 5 sites at 18.8%. District 3, 18 sites with 51.4%. District 4, 8 sites at 15.5%. And we do not see sites in District 5. So what this information tells us is where we are and where we need to go in moving forward to make sure that we have appropriate representation and programs and resources provided throughout the county. So we'll be looking at that information, of course, as we develop our upcoming RFP for the next OST programs. And each of our programs, you're going to see content. Now, this is only year 2 budget, so this excludes year 1 and year 3. You're going to see their total expenditures as well as their reimbursement and residual funds. The number of participants that are served, you're going to see their proposed number versus the actual number, as well as the projected amount of participant as far as cost, and then the actual cost per participant. You're going to see whether or not they met their dosage, as well as tracking the participants and they're living in high poverty census areas. You're going to see the days of program is offered monthly. Also, the number of participants attending monthly, the average days the participants attend, and it's broken down by site. So we felt that even though they have multiple sites, if we're showing all of that data per site, you're going to see some trends. Like some of the sites are higher populated than others as far as that participation. And those are conversations that I can see when I look at their quarterly reports, when they're reporting some of the barriers, as well as their strategies and moving forward, and how can they build that maximum capacity throughout the sites that they're providing those services. You're going to see a reflection of the goals that they submitted, and they do that separately. And every program has established their own proposed goals and objectives. And then those are evaluated both quarterly, and then they give us the end of the year summation as far as their metrics and their overall outcomes and report to us in that way. So you're going to see quantitative measures and qualitative measures. So some of the quantitative measures that they have selected are academic goals, goals for attendance, behavior and socialization, healthy habits like food and recreational access to programs, as well as retention of students and staff, The qualitative measures that you will observe are going to be through surveys. They have surveyed their participants as well as the families. Overall confidence of how they feel while they're in the programs. Their understanding of learning styles as far as their best way of learning in the academic setting. Staff and parent observations have been reported. They can also verify if they've gained personal and social responsibility through their service, and building growth mindset and grit, also developing soft skills and emotional understanding. So there is a lot to look at. Certainly take your time in doing so. We can entertain questions now as well as later on if you have any additional questions or concerns. But at first glance, can I answer any questions or clarify?
This is great work. Thank you so much. It's going to take us a while to go through this.
It will,
so
it
much.
definitely will.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we will go to our legal update, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Only one item on your legal report, which is the City of Pensacola tax incremental funding exemption request. As you'll recall, in June, mid-June, the city issued a demand on the trust to pay tax and incremental revenue for years 21 through 24. In response, Ms. Cannon has sent a letter to the city and council members that was dated July 15th of 25 requesting an exemption. I have touched base with the city attorney as of the end of July. 2 updates there. One, he was still digesting the exemption request with Mayor Reeves and did confirm that, of course, the trust is under an indefinite extension of time to pay the demanded funds, as that initial letter did demand payment by the end of July. Of course, the process will be very similar as to the county. There will be a public hearing set on the exemption request. That date is not yet set, as Mr. Cobb is still digesting the request, at which time, if the exemption is granted, we will enter an interlocal agreement with the city similar to the county. The interlocal, there is no draft circulating at this point in time. Instead of offering a proposed interlocal, instead we decided it was best for Mr. Cobb to speak with Mr. Reeves and then set a meeting to discuss what would be included in the request or in the proposed interlocal, especially in light of the dollar amount of funds currently being expended in the city CRA area. So at this time, there's not a public hearing date set, and I haven't heard back from Mr. Cobb, but we'll touch base with him in the next couple of weeks to make sure it continues to move forward.
Are there any questions on that from Ms. Fry? All right, hearing none. Is there any other business? All right, thank you so much for all your hard work. We really appreciate it all. So, all right, a motion to adjourn? Second? Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.